thinking about adding Wonderland to your next cruise vacation? Or maybe you're thinking, what even is Wonderland? Well, listen to this episode of Travel Talk to find out.
Welcome to Travel Talk, where our expert magical memory planners discuss ways you can have fun, memorable, stress-free family vacations.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. I am so excited for this episode because if you've listened to us before, you know that probably my favorite thing about vacation is the food. And so this episode is all about food. So we are going to be talking about Wonderland, which is one of the specialty dining restaurants on Royal Caribbean. And I will give you a little bit of a tidbit about what specialty dining means, but mainly we're just going to talk about Wonderland. Okay. So specialty dining is an option on many cruise lines, actually, but we're going to be talking about Royal Caribbean today, where you can elevate your dining experience by purchasing a meal at one of their specialty dining locations. So most of them are for everyone. There are some that may be exclusive to adults, but usually they're for everyone. They may have options for lunch or dinner or both. And the pricing varies throughout the cruise from lunch and dinner, and sometimes it's different on sea days than it is on port days. So we definitely recommend if you are thinking about specialty dining to reserve it ahead of time, reserve it in your cruise planner, and watch for promotions because Royal Caribbean often has promotions. If you find a better price, you can cancel and rebook your dining at the lower rate. So always keep your eye out for that. But there's a lot of specialty dining options from really super luxurious options all the way down to things that are just unique and different. There's usually a steakhouse, a Chops Grill, there's usually an Italian restaurant like Giovanni's, and there's some new concepts like their new train station restaurants, which we'll maybe talk about on another episode. But today I'm going to talk about Wonderland. And Wonderland is a really unique location, which is kind of all based around the idea of Alice in Wonderland and a little bit of that crazy upside down world. So the whole restaurant is very whimsical and kind of out of the box, including the menu. And it is super, super fun. So I want to walk you through our meal at Wonderland. We were able to try almost all of the appetizers. So I think we had we'll see at the end how many I didn't count, but maybe nine appetizers. And then we each got an entree and we got two desserts. And they were all, before you like freak out, there was just two of us, but they were all the appetizers were kind of like a bite or a bite and a half. So it wasn't really a lot of food, but it was a huge variety of food. Everything was in line with that whole whimsical thing that goes with Alice in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter was there walking around and came to our table from time to time and greeted us and talked to us and told us jokes and riddles. And the whole experience was just so, so much fun. So let us start with the very first thing when you come into the restaurant is you get a menu like every other restaurant, except for at Wonderland, your menu is blank. There's nothing on it. And in order to read the menu, they give you a paintbrush and a small glass of water, not your drinking glass of water, a different glass of water. And you have to paint your menu to reveal the words. And as it dries, it goes away, which is really fun because as you're thinking, you're like, look at it again, and then you can't read it anymore. So that is just kind of how your meal starts, is with this blank menu that you have to paint to reveal the menu. Okay, then we start in with all our appetizer courses. So our very first course that we tried was called the Bird's Nest. And this was super unique. So it came to the table as on a platter with a dome over it filled with smoke. So we couldn't even see what was in there. And with a little rattle and a shake, the waiter opened the lid and revealed two halves of like a deviled egg on a bird's nest. And it was all smoky from the smoke that was in there. So that smoke imparted flavor into the bird's nest, which was kind of like a fried basket of rice noodles, if I had to explain it. Not super tasty, more of a thing that serves your food on. I mean, you can eat it, but I didn't enjoy it. And then we each had one of these deviled eggs, which had blue cheese in it, and it was just, I don't even know how to explain it. Super unique flavor, especially with the smoke involved, but super interesting. So that was the bird's nest that we started with. Then we went to the reconstructed caprese salad. So this was really, really cool and also super delicious. It may have been one of my favorite appetizers, but I might say that more than once. So this was on like a larger plate, and the two sides of the plate were basically empty. And down the center of the plate was a channel. I mean, clearly they had these plates made just for this restaurant, was a channel with fresh mozzarella, like all chopped up, and then different roasted tomatoes and roasted olives and oil of like olive oil and then like other oils that they like made out of other foods. I don't even know. The waiter must go to a special school to learn how to explain all this stuff. But anyway, it was super awesome. So they gave us forks and we had to smash up the tomatoes and mix it in with the cheese. And then from there we could eat it. So a little bit of work on this one, but totally worth it. It was really, really delicious. And I've never had a caprese salad like that before. So all the elements of caprese salad, but like microgreen, like micro basil and basil oil. And there was some kind of like dried up like Kalamata olives that were dried up and flaked. I don't even know. Super tasty, super, super interesting. Adventurous spirit if you're going to eat at Wonderland. Okay, the next thing we had, when he brought this to the table, I was like, what is this? So he brought us a rack with test tubes in it, essentially, is what it looked like. And filled in the test tubes was a clear liquid. And at the very top was like this white foam, is what it looked like. So you had to put your thumb over the top of it and give it a good shake and shake it all up together. And this one was called tomato water. And so once you give it a good shake and you mix it all together, down the hatch like a shot, you drink the whole thing all at once. I really didn't know what to expect because my daughter did it first and I videoed her and then she made a face. So I was like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? But I gave it a good shake. I took it down the hatch. I actually thought it was super, super tasty. It was a little bit salty. So it was kind of like that salty water that comes off of tomatoes. If you've ever like salted tomatoes to like put in a salad or something, and then what's left on the plate is like this salty tomatoey juice, so to speak, but it's clear because it's like whatever. Anyway, that's kind of what it tasted like. It was super, super tasty, not at all as strange as I thought it was when he brought the test tubes and said, here's some tomato water. So it was really good. I would recommend it. Then he brought us a little snack for something off of the kids' menu. So as we're eating through this meal of all this really interesting things, a family comes in with like a 5 or 6 year old. And I thought, oh, Wonderland, what a fun restaurant for kids. And then as we're halfway through these appetizers, I thought to myself, oh, what would the kids eat? Like, do they eat this? Do they have a special menu? How does that all work? Of course, if your kid is an adventurous eater, they're certainly able to try all these things. But I thought, what if they're not? So you wouldn't want them to miss out on the experience or come to dinner and not have anything to eat. So then, of course, out of the blue, he brings us one of the things off the kids' menu, which is the Mad Hatter's crispy mac and cheese fries. So this is like mac and cheese. It looks like a mozzarella stick because it's, looks like a French fry or a mozzarella stick, but inside is actually mac and cheese, and it's served with a very fancy homemade tomato ketchup. And so we had this. It was super yummy. I mean, who doesn't like mac and cheese? And they have like fried mac and cheese and that kind of thing. So it's kind of all along those lines, but served as a French fry. So again, super fun for kids to have like something whimsical and interesting, but something that they would probably like, and adults like it too. Okay, so then back to the adult food. We moved on to the Mad Hatter's purple potted shrimp. So this was super cool too. So it comes out in like a little teacup, and it's almost like the size that you would have like for an espresso. So it's this little tiny teacup, and in the bottom of the teacup is a very spicy mousse made with I think Scotch bonnet peppers. So very spicy. So you don't have to dip in that if you don't want to. And then sitting perched on top of this little tiny cup is this ginormous shrimp that's wrapped in these like rice noodles and deep fried, kind of like the rice noodles that were at the beginning that they made the nest out of for the eggs. But this is like wrapped around the shrimp and not smoky and actually very tasty. So this did take a couple bites to eat this shrimp, but it was again super interesting. Everything that came to us was plated in a plate or a scenario that they must have made up for this restaurant. I mean, they had the test tubes and the caprese plate, which had like this channel down the middle, and now like a little teacup and saucer. Just so interesting. So interesting. So that was also delicious. Okay, then he brings us something else. And he's like, this is actually from the entrees, but we're going to bring you a little sample of them so that you can try them. So he brings us four spoons. And each one there was two different things on here. So one for each of us. So the first one we tried was the liquid truffle mushroom risotto. So this was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like a mousse of mushroom truffle with like little fried pieces of rice in it. So it was like the rice was a little bit crunchy and then you had the mushrooms, but it was like a pudding or like I don't know. It wasn't like soup, but it was like creamy. I don't know. Really good. One bite, just put the spoon in your mouth and eat it. Of course, if you don't like mushrooms, you probably wouldn't like it. I love mushrooms, so I thought it was fantastic. And then the second item he brought on another spoon to taste was liquid lobster. Now, this was on the menu too, and I was like, that's intriguing, maybe a little concerning, wasn't sure what to think of it. But essentially, this was like a delicious lobster bisque with a nice piece of lobster right in the middle. So, not actually as strange as you might think it is, but came on a nice little spoon, one big mouthful, really, really nice, super tasty if you love lobster. So, those were kind of like, a couple little extra things that he brought in that were from the entree section. Then another appetizer we had was the crispy crab cones. So this is where they took a wonton and fried it to make it into like an ice cream cone. At the very bottom was wasabi, which he warned us about. He's like, the very bottom has wasabi. If you don't really like that, don't bite the bottom. And then in the middle was like a crab salad. And then on the very top, that looked like ice cream, was an avocado mousse. So his instructions, because most of our appetizers came with some instructions, his instructions was to take a nibble of the bottom where the wasabi was at your discretion, and then take a bite from the top. And so little nibble from the bottom, a nice bite from the top. I got the avocado and all of the crab in one bite. It wasn't super big, but super tasty and super interesting presentation in a special rack that they had them all kind of sitting in the ice cream cone looking thing. So it was so good, so fun. So then we moved on to our last and final appetizer. This was called Citrus Seas. So this was a spicy tuna that was like made into like a salad. And this was served over ice. This was like from the ice section of the menu. So it was served in a bowl of ice. Then there was like hollowed out, I think it was limes. And then the salad was in the hollowed out frozen lime. And then on top of the tuna, the spicy tuna, was a yuzu, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but like a granita or granite. So it's kind of like an icy, like an ice. I don't even know. You know what I'm talking about. So it was like this icy scoop on top, and that was made from yuzu. So you could eat this is like a palate cleanser. Well, you had the spicy tuna and then the palate cleanser served in a bowl of ice, and that was our last appetizer. Also very good. I made a promise to myself that when I went to this restaurant, I was like, I am going to try whatever they put in front of me. It's one bite. Might as well. So I was very brave. I tried all the things, even things I wasn't sure about, but I did like everything, and it was really, really good. So then we got to our entrees. We each were able to select one entree. I got the rib-eye-licious short rib, which was delicious. No knife required, super tender. It was served with potatoes, but then around the plate were like all these little dots of different things, and they were purple and yellow and orange and white, and they were all around the plate. And when he served me, he told me what everything was, and I don't remember now, but there was beets and there was sweet potato and there was, I don't even know, all these like little things all like around the plate. So you could taste them as you ate. It was really, really, really good. And then my daughter got a halibut cooked in clear paper. And that was so cool because it came out like in this clear bag on the table on her bowl. And then he cut open the bag and kind of dumped everything out. So it was almost like a soup, but it was like halibut and potatoes and mushrooms and a beautiful broth and all of that, like all cooked in this bag that they cut open and kind of served in front of us. So that was also really cool. So the entrees were just absolutely delicious. Okay, so then we get to dessert. They brought us two desserts and the fun just keeps on going. So the first one was the mystical mushroom garden. So this was super cute. It looked like a whole little garden of mushrooms. The components of what was there was a pistachio and white chocolate mousse, which made like the tops of the mushrooms. Then there was red velvet and chocolate soil. And those two things were like crumbled up all around the bottom, and that made like the dirt. So it was like chocolate and crumb and all of that. Then there was some soft meringues and like little cookies on top of those. So those made like other little mushrooms and other things in our garden. And then it was served with a scoop of the mango sorbet. So you just kind of had to like work your way around all of the things. I mean, overall, it tasted good. The mango sorbet was awesome. I really liked that. The other things, I think they looked prettier than they tasted, maybe, but they were interesting. And the whole dessert as a whole was kind of fun. So that was fun. And then the second dessert we have, I wish I could just show you a video of it because that would just really be the coolest thing. But it was called the World. And ultimately, it came out looking like a chocolate ball, but then he poured something on it and it melted away. And then everything was inside, like was revealed. And then we kind of like ate it. This was also very, very delicious. But it was a peanut butter ganache. It had a chocolate mousse inside and a salted caramel ice cream. And so, like I said, the coolest thing was just pouring the liquid over it and watching the chocolate ball kind of melt away, revealing the ice cream and all the parts on the inside. So it was really, really cool. Also extremely delicious. So we were so full at that point. I mean, it didn't even matter, but everything in the dessert was really, really good and fun. Okay, so if you enjoyed hearing all about my meal, maybe you're thinking, I would like to add Wonderland. So you can book this. They usually don't have lunch options, but they usually are open for dinner. And you can book this for one of the nights on your ship on your sailing on Royal Caribbean, but that not all ships have a Wonderland. So I just wanted to point out which ships have it. So they are on two classes of ship, the Oasis class and the Quantum or Quantum Ultra class. So in the Oasis class, there's three ships with Wonderland. Wonder of the Seas, that's the ship we were on, Symphony of the Seas, and Harmony of the Seas. Those three ships have a Wonderland restaurant. On the Quantum class or Quantum Ultra class, Odyssey of the Seas has it. That's the one that's technically Quantum Ultra. And then the other quantum ships that have Wonderland is Anthem of the Seas, Quantum of the Seas, Ovation of the Seas, and Spectrum of the Seas. So those are the ones that will have it on there so that you can make a reservation. So just to kind of recap a little, I just want to confirm with you if you are an adventurous eater, if you love a little fun with your food and interaction with your food, and you don't mind trying lots of new and different things, I highly recommend Wonderland. It does have a set menu on basically all the ships. I think it's pretty much the same. So it might change from time to time a little bit, but you're going to kind of see similar to what I had. You can view the menu ahead of time in your Royal Caribbean app if you have a cruise booked. So that way you can take a look at it and see what's on the menu. You can order whatever you want, so you can try so many of the different things that are on there that are so much fun. If you have food allergies, they'll have that on your reservation and you'll confirm when you get there, so that way you can pick the things that are going to work best for you and they can modify what needs to be modified for you. And maybe you'll consider adding Wonderland specialty dining to your next cruise.